Hello, my name is Nicole, and thank you so much for taking the time out to listen. Today, I am continuing with a message on demonic attack on children, and this time I am getting into the subtle ways the enemy will use children to do his dirty work, and he will use the most unlikeliest folks to do just that. It can be the loving aunt, the beautiful friend, the sweetheart, the great husband, or the good guy that you just met like 2 weeks ago. Okay. But the way the enemy does it, it's unfortunate, because he plays on people's trust. Okay. He plays on people's trust. First things first, the holiday season is coming along. So you know that children are going to be vulnerable. Because auntie bought me this gift, cousin so-and-so did this nice thing for me. You may be a young adult or even an adult who is going into these atmospheres. And unfortunately, there are some parents and grandparents and others that are going to use these situations to get the best of some folks. Okay. They're going to tap into some pockets. They're going to play some guilt trips, controlling people, selfish people. People who are being used by the enemy know how to play the holidays. And if you are the naive one, the gullible one, the one that thinks all things family is sweet, nice, and, all of the above, you are going to find out real quickly that when children are involved, the enemy likes to play some games. And those kind of games have caused much hardship, difficulty. People have even divorced as a result of folks messing around with children. People have even went to jail, and others have died because of things related to children. Okay. One of the things that the enemy is going to do is use children to get some information about a believer or an unbeliever. I want to know something about you. I know your child really likes me. I'm going to find out through your child. Okay. Now, if you are up to no good, you are not going to want your children to put your business out in the street. If you know you mean well, you don't really care too much because you have nothing to hide. You're an open book. You see what I mean? But even then, you don't want your children putting all your business out in the street. Okay. But those that are looking for any opportunity, any way in, and they just feel compelled, they feel moved to get to know you, to find something out about you, they're going to use your children. Another thing is that they are going to cause your children to either see some things in the natural or see some things in the spiritual to use against you, or against their siblings, or to recruit others to do demonic things. Okay. What do I mean by that? Some folks are into sorcery, witchcraft. Okay. Some folks are into all sorts of magics, dark ones, occult activities, and things like that. And they don't mind defiling children. So if they can get children to start practicing certain things in the spiritual, then they can be able to get them to be very powerful and therefore cause much heartache, especially on those that they don't particularly like. Okay. Christians or anyone of faith or anyone that they feel has offended them. Okay. Your job as a believer is to recognize when your children seem to be a bit off, when your children are taking interest into these sorts of things. Okay. And to remind them that there is nothing that is harmless about them. And you may even have to take away those little gifts that some of these witches and warlocks and so forth have given them. You may even have to warn them not to digest certain things that are edible. Okay. This is why you shouldn't be allowing children to go to everyone's house and to obtain things to eat, because some people do not mean well. Okay. They just don't. And children, after a while, they will start to see things. Some already have that heightened awareness as a result of generational curses, generational things that have happened in a family for umpteen years. So they already have, some of them already have that awareness of ghosts and imaginary friends and stuff that they will communicate with you to get you to be worried, to get you to react to things. So if you don't take a moment to think, where is this coming from? And why is my child suddenly behaving this way? And what has recently come into the home to cause them to be this way? Or what did they eat? The reason why they're acting so sickly and they keep having nightmares and whatever else. Consider the source, consider the people that are around them, consider the things that they've been listening to, and also consider what you are wrapped up into. Okay? Children can be used. Children are so innocent, so nice, so sweet, so this, that, and the other. They're open, and so the enemy does not mind using them. Another thing is that children will lie and they will exaggerate for adults, especially those that they trust. Okay? Sometimes they will lie and don't even realize why they're lying. Sometimes they will exaggerate and not even realize that either. It's the voices. It's that thing that I heard. I don't know. I just felt like doing it. Okay? Demonic influence. They will behave badly, especially during crucial times. Okay? You want to make a very important phone call, and then suddenly there's a lot of crying and there's some yelling and there's some crazy stuff going on. If you are not training a child, disciplining a child before those crucial times, the child will turn on you like a snake when you least expect it. Okay? That is a reality. This is why you should be spending much time training children to not interrupt you when you are on the phone, not to act like a fool in the public, to have good manners, to be respectful of others. There are many parents that ended up missing out on potential jobs as a result of children misbehaving. Okay? But the children are not so much the ones to blame, but it's the adults who should have been teaching children. There are some adults that esteem children, that idolize children, that worship children, that put them on pedestals. I just love children. That they have ruined relationships because they don't know how to balance children with relationship. They don't know how to communicate in a way that is adult. They're still talking like babies, and that gets very annoying. Okay? So, there are so many things that happen because people want to put children first and what children's needs are and everything else. But you need a job, or you need to keep a job. Okay. You need to, stay connected with your partner, because once children leave, guess what? It's you and your partner. So when people are just too wrapped up into children, there are consequences to that. And the enemy doesn't mind using children to distract adults from God. Okay? He's so innocent. He needs me. He needs me. Well, after a while, a 5-year-old is going to be 15. He doesn't need you as much. A 15-year-old is going to be 30. He doesn't need you so much. I wrote a book called Tell Me Mother You're Sorry. And much of that book is about the manipulative and controlling mother or stepmother or spiritual mother or mother-in-law. Okay? Who is always looking for some type of in everybody's life. She's controlling. She lies, she exaggerates, and she doesn't mind using children, grandchildren, step-grandchildren, spiritual daughters and sons to get things done to suit her. Okay? And those that have a Jezebel or witchy spirit, if you will, don't mind defiling innocence. Okay? There are men who don't mind acting emotionally, physically, and sexually abusive to children. There are women who are just like this. Some folks say, oh, no, not women. Women can't be that. Oh, there's plenty that's out there. Okay. And so you ask some of these folks, why do you do what you do? And they don't even realize why after a while, because they've been doing it for so long. So children will behave badly, especially during those crucial times. And if you do not train them, if you do not teach them, they're susceptible to all sorts of people, places, and things. Okay. Another thing that I've seen the enemy use children to do is reiterate false information from a spiteful, jealous adult to attack believers. Okay. So that person doesn't like you, doesn't like your family. You know, you're just doing too well for them. They will say some things in such a way to a child so that it will cause upheaval in a household. Okay. Cause problems in a marital relationship. Okay. Cause problems between siblings. Meanwhile, they sit back and they're laughing hysterically. And you say, what are you doing all that laughing about? You know you cause these problems. Some will say, I don't care. And others will say, I didn't know that's what I was doing. Right? Because they end up crying and they end up being quite upset. But hey, that spiteful, jealous adult, that was the intent, was to use a child. Another thing is, a subtle way the enemy will use children is cause them to act as they, or cause them to act as a false prophet. Okay. They will say things about the future and then you find out that no, that is not even the case. I remember a little girl decided that she was going to tell me something about the world being destroyed or something bizarre like that. And she said her teacher told her that. Well, I pretty much knew the teacher did not explain it in the way that she explained it. But she had this little look on her face and she was trying to incite fear. My two children, they believed the little girl. I did not. And I had to talk with my two children and tell them, listen, the world is not going to end in the way that she's talking about and all this other stuff. And the teacher did not explain it that way, I'm sure. And not only that, the little girl went so far as to mention a time. Okay. Well, the next day she had a solemn looking face. Her head was down. I asked her what was going on. She said, oh, that's not what the teacher meant. I said, I know that's not what the teacher meant. You see? So there are those moments where children are going to act as a false prophet because they are sensitive. They are vulnerable and they believe more things than most folks. Okay. They will cause you to forget some things. The enemy has a way of using them to distract you so that you forget that very important task you were supposed to accomplish. Okay. Oftentimes, the children are used during cash transactions, debit card transactions, credit cards, and so forth, right? They start that talking and pulling on parents and all this other stuff. Why? Why would the enemy do that? Because if he can separate you from your money, cause you to spend more than you should, that means that you're not going to do, things for God. He doesn't want you focused on Jesus Christ. He doesn't want you pleading the blood of Jesus over your household. Okay. He doesn't want you doing any of that, but he wants you to, be focused on on anything and everything that keeps you away from God. The enemy will put children up to doing despicable acts, will use people closest to them to do despicable things, whether young or old, rich or poor, white or black. It doesn't matter. Children will do despicable things. Okay. And then if you ask them, sometimes they'll say, I don't know why I did it. I just did it. He will use children to do destructive things without any rhyme or reason. Okay, we're talking about, ripping up stuff that you really like. Okay, going over there, moving on them to get up and start scribbling on something, causing damage. Moving on that child to go over and burn something down, experiment with things. Okay, he will use children after they've repeatedly been told, after they've been disciplined. some of the toughest kids were told over and over again not to do something and continue to do it anyway. And at that point, yes, do they need to be checked out for mental illness? Absolutely. A lot of parents, though, don't want to admit to it. They rather see their child go from doing despicable things when they were younger, destructive things when they were younger, to being adults that do despicable things, destructive things, and still deny that their child isn't troubled. Okay? And the enemy loves blind folks that defend, folks that run away from truth. He loves those folks and he keeps them bound. Okay? Another thing is the enemy will use children to act strangely, creepy. And then, of course, that results in all sorts of weird behaviors, okay? Things that people will say, is there something wrong with your child? No, he's fine. Well, why does he act so strange, so creepy? Okay? And some of these influences come from horror movies and from so-called harmless cartoons and television shows. They come from toys and video games and stuff. These sorts of behaviors show up. And you say, I didn't teach my child this. Why is my child acting like this? Okay? Demonic influence is real. One particular parent decided to go through her child's room after he kept talking about nightmares. Okay? I'm having nightmares. I don't know why. She prayed with them and still the nightmares didn't go away. And then eventually what happened was she found out that what was causing the nightmares was from video games. Okay? From video games. Certain video game had all sorts of satanic garbage in it, as the woman put. Another thing I personally found out was that my child ended up having all sorts of visions, strange visions. And then I looked around his room and found out that he had poster after poster after poster of superheroes. And of course, with superheroes, there are villains. And the villains actually had more influence than the superheroes. And so that influence from the villains was permeating his mindset. So rather than playing on the good side, his personality was showing signs early on that he wanted to play on the bad side. Okay? So I found myself having to go around his room and pray. I talked about blessing your house not that long ago. I am saying that when it comes to children's rooms and you know that there's still something going on with your child, go back in that room and pray. Go back in that room and find out what is hidden in between drawers and under rugs and up underneath a mattress and in a box somewhere. And, open up a little wall hole and see what's behind that whole wall, or open up a book or two and see what they're storing in something. Okay. Or some of the most likely things, in bottles. Okay. There is something going on with some children. And if parents are not on top of it, the demonic wins and you lose. Okay. There are those parents that their children have long left the household, but yet the enemy is with them. And that's a fact. The enemy is with them because the parents never did bother to have a quality relationship with the children. It was about get on with your life as fast as you possibly can. And then those parents became grandparents and great grandparents and still wanted nothing to do with children. They will have to answer to God for that sort of thing. You see, it does take a village to raise a child. And some folks are putting their children in villages where it's nothing more than demonic influence. Okay? They learned a lot from a gossipy relative. They learned a lot from a violent relative. They learned a lot from a drunken relative. They learned a lot from a stubborn or prideful or narcissistic or bipolar or schizo type of relative. And then parents wonder why children don't become successes in life, why children are running around like chickens with their head cut off. The influences. I can't stress that enough. Demonic attack has a stronghold over children because of parents who are either ineffective, lazy. Some of them are just misers. They don't want to spend any money to get children lessons, to, educate them. Oh, I want my child to be educated. I want him to be a success, but you're not putting any money into that. You're not putting any time into that. You're leaving it up to folks that don't have much education to watch children, but you want a 4.0. How much are you putting into a child? You see what I mean? Or they continue to live in environments hoping that the child is going to be like, one of these rappers or athletes or something. Yeah, I had hard times and that's why it made me strong. And that's why I'm a success to this day. Okay, well, that happened for him, but it ain't happening for everybody else. Come on. Let's just be honest. It's not. So mediocrity breeds mediocrity, right? Because some folks, they believe that suddenly something's going to fall out the sky. They don't have to do too much of anything but play some lottery numbers, drink some drinks, right? Sit back and gossip about grandchildren, great-grandchildren, or whatever. And everybody's just going to live happily ever after. What are they smoking? Come on. You've got to work. The Lord is moving on men and women to work, not just jobs, but work when it comes to parenting, when it comes to grandparenting, when it comes to educating, when it comes to teaching and all of that. And some I can hear in the spiritual realm saying, well, my children and grandchildren and so forth don't even come around. So how am I supposed to influence them? Well, sometimes what happens is that the influence actually pushes children and grandchildren away. God will allow that sort of thing to happen because the heart is not in it. God knows me. Shoot, he know I ain't into my kids or my grandkids. That's right. So this message wouldn't apply to those folks because they've already pushed everybody away. They already said that they can't handle it, that they don't want it. So God raises up sisters and brothers and mothers of the church and other people to influence grandchildren as well as sons and daughters in a positive way. That's the beautiful thing about God. He doesn't make you be something that you don't want to be. There's parents right now that have gone to they have read my book, When Mothers Cry. They've gone on my blogs and so forth, and they don't want to really be parents. I know when I first found out that I was pregnant, I didn't really want to be a parent. And some, though, rather than lean on God and allow him to put a spirit of parenting within them, the knowledge and wisdom and the courage and so forth to do it, they rather just go ahead on and continue to reject their children. And so then when their children get older and they start rejecting them, they say, no, Lord, please, why is this happening to me? I mean, do we really need an explanation? Demonic influence will move people to sever relationships that shouldn't be severed, to push people out of their life over the minute things that really shouldn't have been. But then demonic influence will put replacements there, or will continue to work with the demonic that's already around folks to eventually kill, steal, and destroy. Okay? So if I'm pushing the wrong people away from me, then I'm setting myself up for demonic attack. So if there is that one that, you don't really like them so much because they're a zealous Christian, but your child is learning some things. They are growing. They are better since that person came into their life. They're not complaining about them acting inappropriate, and you haven't seen anything inappropriate, and there is no track record of complaints concerning inappropriate behavior. Then it's safe to say that this person is a decent person and may only be in that child's life for a season before here comes some enemy wanting to mess around with that child. The one that you might think is the right one turns out to be the wrong one, you see. And this sort of thing happens a lot with some folks who they just don't have spiritual discernment when it comes to who should be in their children's life and who shouldn't. Holidays come along and folks want to put everybody in children's lives, everybody who shouldn't even be in their children's lives. Okay? But that's family. So what? So what? If mom said that she can't handle this, that, and the other, why in the world would you continue to push your children on mom who said, I can't handle this, I can't handle that, I don't want this, I don't want that, right? Or why would you continue to bring children around a father who didn't even want to be bothered with his own children, right? So now he starts dating this one and that one. And they all want to bring their children around this man who has made it quite plain. I'm not into kids like that, sweetie. Okay? But folks will do this sort of thing. Or how about the one who, I don't care that children's here. I can say whatever I want to say. What? Now you're trying to do right by God. And you putting your children around some folks that you might end up having to hurt behind your children. Is it worth it? You've got so many different personalities out here, and a lot of them are not for children. They're against children because children cost money. Children can get on your nerves. Children are, this, that, and the other. They got lots of complaints about children. So why do we do that? Why do we put ourselves around folks like that? I told you it took a long time for me to get to that place where I had to say, listen, not everybody is meant to be in my life, and not everybody is meant to be in my children's life. But if they want to connect with folks later on in life, they can. But for now, I have to protect my children. God told me to protect my children. God told me to teach my children. God told me to train up my children in the way they should go. Now, why am I going to sit up there and put wrong teachers who aren't even right with God around my children? Just because something has happened to us during our childhood doesn't make it right. Can I say that again? Just because something happened to us doesn't make it right. Just because I'm okay today, even though I went through some things, doesn't mean that it's okay, though, for my children to go through those same things as well. You see, a lot of times people will allow demonic attack to creep on in because they are fearful of what people think. They are fearful of the argument they might have with the spouse because I don't want him having this thing or that thing. They are worried. They're concerned about what people might think if I start saying that I'm a believer, but I don't celebrate holidays. They are concerned about, the opposition of any and everything they might say. So they don't pray effectively like they should. And they are not protecting children like they should. And they're being blown around by the winds. And therefore they are not strong Christians. And God doesn't like lukewarm. He will spit you out. Okay? So be strong. Stand strong. You know that the demonic attack is real. You know it is out there. And children are susceptible to it. Okay? We are to pray for our children. We are to pray that they do not fall into the hands of the enemy. Go into your children's room. Plead the blood of Jesus over it. Ask the Lord to lead you to anything that is in that room that is not of God. Pray that whatever it is that might be causing some problems, that God will show you. Also, when your children are sleeping, pray for them. Put a little bit of anointed oil over their head in the name of the Father, the Son, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit. Ask God's angels to protect your children from all harm and danger. My one son likes to say, and let nothing bad happen, Lord. Come on. We need to be in prayer for our children. Okay. And if you don't have any children, pray for somebody's children. Okay. Lift them up in Jesus' name. Ask that the Lord might save them. If you feel like you are being attacked by someone's child or your relationship is being attacked as a result of demonic influence upon a child, you definitely have to pray. Pray that the Lord will be with you during these tough times. Ask that the Lord will put a loving spirit in that child, a kind spirit. But you have to also show love and be kind as well for that child to be able to see that you are okay and you're all right and you're not out to hurt them. Because a lot of times the reason why these children are susceptible to demonic influence is because they've been rejected. They've been abused. They've been mishandled, mistreated. They've been disrespected. I mean, there's so much stuff that goes on with them and they can't always explain it. There are adults that have gone through many things. And so they have a way of defiling others because of all of what they went through. Once again, you don't need to bring your children around people like this. Okay, until you know that they got it going on and God has approved you being around them and your children, you don't need to be around those folks. Okay. If it is a situation where you're living in a household with someone who, there's a lot of things that they say and do that is not right. and they are influencing a child, I suggest that you pray and you ask the Lord for a plan to distance yourself, you and your children, away from this person. That means that you can always get your children involved in some activities so that they're not sitting around listening day after day to this person, especially during the summertime. Okay. Some folks, they want all of the goodies concerning children, right? They want them to be successes and all that. They want children to give back to them when they're older and all that, but they're not doing anything to promote those sorts of things. And then there are some who are over the top to the point where they're not even allowing God to use children. Okay. And that's not good either. So make sure that you are praying for your children, making sure that they have plenty of things that they're doing, making sure that you're not leaving children around these people for too long. Also, if there is something that comes up that you don't like concerning the child or the way the person's behaving with the child, then you take a stance. And if it is getting to a point where you might find yourself going to jail behind your children, then you definitely need to come up with an exit plan like yesterday. Because I'm telling you, as much as we love our children, we don't want to do anything that's going to cost our freedom. Okay. So, ask the Lord to give you the guidance, because a lot of people, like I said, they end up in their graves fighting for children. Okay. And it hurts to fight for children, though, that started it. Okay. That started the drama, that are being infiltrated and used and abused and everything else to hurt us. It's not worth all of that. So definitely reevaluate what's going on. Talk with a professional about your situation, and just continue to fight the good fight when it comes to your children. Train up a child as the Lord instructs. And when your child is out of line, when your child is being disrespectful, when your child is not listening, you are going to have to discipline them. And if your child is too old to be disciplined, well, you can always take some things away, right? You can always distance yourself from them. If you can't handle this and you can't handle that. But one thing we don't want to do is put ourselves in any position where we're dishonoring anyone. Parents talk about they don't want to be dishonored. Well, you're not to provoke children to wrath either. So sometimes it's better to be quiet and go about your day and enjoy your life than to cause problems in your household or in someone else's household. Those of you all who haven't gotten Tell Me Mother You're Sorry, please do check it out. If you are having some issues with spiritual mothers, stepmothers, biological mothers, any mother who is controlling, manipulative, or downright crazy, some of them have already passed away, but yet you find yourself doing some things that are just like your mother. Please do check that book out. For those of you all who have looked at your children and you're no longer with the fathers, but you've looked at your children and you have said, wait a minute, there's so much going on that reminds me of my father, or reminds me of, their father. There may be some issues there, some deep, dark issues. I have a book called Say Goodbye to Dad. Sometimes we are influencing our children based on lack. Okay, based on lack. Things that we didn't get from fathers. Okay, things that we didn't get from father-in-laws or spiritual fathers or what have you. So that book is there as well. And if you find that there are just some things that you're grappling with, you're a mother and you are saying to yourself, I am just really tired of going through this, motherhood stuff. Please do get When Mothers Cry. Okay. Because I wrote that book at a time when I had the newborn, when I had the toddler, when I had the preteen, that tween, as well as a soon to be, just right around the corner. He was 12 going on 13. So when you are just inundated with child related stuff, it can be overwhelming, and you could talk to folks and still they don't get it. So get When Mothers Cry, and also subscribe to the blog whenmotherscry.blogspot.com. Well, I've given you a lot of information. To God be the glory. You have been listening to YouTube NM Enterprise 7. Please do subscribe today. If you haven't, please do give if you have not. And to God be the glory.